Good morning once again. My name is June. The fulfillment of your promise is imminent. It is closer than you think. Keep the faith. The words of my waking thoughts on November 11, 2020 were in the form of a song, standing on the promises of Christ my King. Through eternal ages, let his praises ring. The Lord is asking us to stand on his promises, to believe on his words. Over many scriptures or places in the scriptures, the Lord has reminded us of his faithfulness and of his grace. In Isaiah chapter 4, verse 10 and onward, it says, "So do not fear, I am with you. Do not be dismayed, I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." And so the passage continues. This passage of scripture, the Lord was reassuring the Israelites that he was their helper. This old passage makes interesting read. God promised to us that he will be with us. He will fight for us. He will strengthen us. The word in my spirit was standing on the promises of Christ my King through eternal ages. Let his praises ring. That's very deep. The Lord himself is asking us to believe in him, to stand on his promises. When God makes his promise to Abraham, since there was no one greater for him to swear by, he, God, swore by himself. There was no one greater by whom God would swear, and so God swore by himself. Continuing on in verse 14, the saying, "I will bless you, and I will give you many descendants." And surely he did bless Abraham. He did fulfill his promise. Yes, he did fulfill his promise. In verse 18 of the said chapter 6, scripture says, "So God has given both his promise and his oath. He swore by himself. These two things are unchangeable because it is impossible for God to lie." So back to my waking thoughts. What promise did God give to you? Whether by a direct message to you or whether via prophecy. Are you standing on the promises of God? Are you keeping that promise alive, or has your faith started to waver? When and where did you lose your faith? In a previous video, I released a word titled, "Where is your accent?" If you haven't yet seen the video, I am encouraging you to take some time to go and watch the video. You might, glean some valuable insight about wavering faith. In 2 Kings 6, verse 1 to 7, in summary, scripture tells us that one of the prophets who had gone down to the Jordan to collect lumber, to cut wood because they were going to expand their dwelling place. So during the cutting of these trees, one of the prophets, his axe head fell into the water. And of course, being metal, it sank. The fallen axe head, in my opinion, can be likened to our faith. We lost faith in the promise that God made to us. We are failing to work out the promise over our lives. So now the prophet, whose axe head had fallen, called out to the prophet Elisha and told him that his axe head had fallen. His faith was wavering. But Elisha, a faithful man of God, a prophet, he encouraged his colleague to identify where the axe head had fallen, where he lost faith, where he lost hope in a promise, and then told him to retrieve the said axe head. Pick it up. Yeah, man, pick up your axe head. Pick up your faith. Stand on the promises of God. It is important that we identify the place or the reason that we had stopped believing in God for the fulfillment of his promise. We will need to go back to that place. The Lord is saying to us that we should pick up our axe head from where it has fallen, from where we lost it. It was a lost and found situation, and to continue believing him for the fulfillment of that prophet. My friends, what are you believing God for? Why have you stopped believing? The Lord wants us to stand on his promises because he made them to us. And furthermore, he swore by himself, since there was no one greater than him by whom to swear, and his promises are certain to be realized. Myself, I am waiting on God. I am standing on his promises over my life. The message to us today is one of encouragement, an admonition, where the Lord is saying to us, stand on my promise. Believe in that which I have said to you. Scripture said in Habakkuk chapter 2 that God made a promise to Habakkuk, but that he would fulfill the promise in his own time. God has a set timing for the events of our lives, and He will not be hurried. No, He will not be hurried nor forced into fulfilling these. So, during the waiting period, which I understand can be for many years, we must stand, believe on the promises, knowing that they must come to pass. Yes, during the waiting period, we have to exercise faith in the promises of God. The Lord told Habakkuk, to write down the promises that He gave to him. Yes, man, write it down. Lest the years might go by and you forget. Lest you lose hope. Lest you get tired of waiting. Write it down. Yes, write it down. Let everyone see it. Let everyone know that you are waiting. Let everyone be aware of your faith in a promise. You are waiting. Now, having recorded the promise, now we have to wait for the appointed time, God's time. God's time of delivery. Do not faint. Do not be disheartened. Know that through the promise, that's what we're going to build our faith. And though the promise was made long ago, as far as we are concerned, and that it does linger, we must wait. We must keep faith alive. We must pick up our axes if it had fallen. Scripture says in Habakkuk 2 that although the promise might linger, and though it appears to be a long time ago, we should wait for the fulfillment of the promise, because it is a certainty. It must come to pass. It will not delay. In our minds, it might be delayed, but our time and God's time, two different times. It might appear long to us, but God's time is set. My friends, these are the words that I got from the Lord to share with us this morning. They came into my spirit to say to us today. They were developed around my waking thought of November 11, 2020, standing on the promises of God. Now have a blessed day. Live and exercise your faith. Don't compromise, I have to be telling myself, that I must exercise my faith. Each day I have to remind myself that the promises of God are sure. Have a blessed day.